Modern Business episode number 22 takes us into the wild with Paul Picket, Chief Development Officer of Wild Birds Unlimited.
Welcome, I'm Ryan Hicks, and this is Modern Business, the podcast to learn from franchise business leaders and explore new business technology. Our community is about sharing knowledge and tools that help us achieve our goals in business and beyond. Thanks for being here, and welcome to Modern Business.
I met Paul through friends and at franchise conferences. And if I recall correctly, Mr. Jerry Darnell, who I call Jerry the Great, is the reason I know Paul and the reason I know a lot of folks in franchising. So Wild Birds Unlimited specializes in bird seed, bird feeders, and many other bird feeding supplies. And they were founded in 1981. They've grown since then from a single feed store in Indianapolis to over 330 specialty retail stores across the country. Paul and I, for this podcast, caught up over breakfast in Dallas, Texas. So during the podcast, you get some soothing diner background noises. Hope you enjoy that. And I don't think it's going to be too distracting. But in the podcast, get ready to learn about what an ornithologist is, how Wild Birds has fended off the Amazon machine, and how they're customizing the bird feeding experience, which they call birdscaping. I find that hilarious. Other topics we talked about include Paul's number one piece of advice when it comes to hiring. It's really, really good. The art of slowing down, plus the importance of getting involved with the IFA and with FranPAC, which helps drive critical legislative agendas on Capitol Hill. And as a side note on that, it's super critical. If you are in franchising, contribute to FranPAC. If you're my friend, I ask you to do that. So email me or DM me to ask how to get involved and how to contribute. It does not take much. So having said that, let's cut over to the live breakfast chat with Mr. Paul Picket of Wild Birds Unlimited. Enjoy. We're recording live here in Dallas, Texas, and we're at an IHOP, by the way, so apologize for the background noise if that's coming through. But our guest today is a veteran in franchising and just an amazing dude overall, Paul Picket, Chief Development Officer of Wild Birds Unlimited. Welcome to Modern Business.
Thanks, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Man, one of the things that just comes out when talking to you, and as we were just talking, is that you're a true practitioner for what you do. Where does that come from?
I think just knowing what you do well and being real comfortable in your own skin allows you to just continue to strive to hit the goals that you have for yourself. And for me, that's like making people happy and bringing joy to people's lives. So it's really easy to just get down in the trenches and do it every day because that positive reinforcement that comes back to you. I'm in development. I always say development always need a lot of positive reinforcement. Most people who are good at it, right. That's the end goal, is to have someone say thank you so much. And it's so much fun to do it and then to make people's lives and life dreams come true.
I love that. Take me back. So what did you study in college?
I actually went to school to study birds. My stepdad gave me
what is
some
that called, by the way?
Ornithology. Ornithology. I know. It's a hard one. Most people can't say it the first time out. My stepfather told me a long time ago, when I was going to school, he said, major in something you love so that you are passionate and you're engaged and you're going to do really well. Because at the end of the day, when you're done with school, what a potential employer is going to look at more than your degree is how well you did at achieving that goal. And some of the best advice I ever got, and actually it fits in perfectly for what I do for a living now, and it's helping people engage with their passion with birds and nature and making people joyful. And that's what our franchisees do. So the really good, the ones who really hit their numbers, they hit their goals, they're doing it because they love birds. They love nature. They love creating joy in the lives of their customers, and they're thoughtful about that. So sticking to your passions. My friend Susan Blackbeth always talks about passion buckets, which is something that's really resonates with me. And it's a theme that I think that successful people have, is they're constantly filling their passion buckets.
I love that. What do you think the impetus of that was? That, by the way, that was phenomenal advice, is do something that you're passionate about. And what would you say was the impetus, like whenever you're recalling and reflecting on, well, what am I truly passionate about? Did you just always love being in nature, or what was that?
I'm very lucky. I fell into birds and nature and gardening because of my family. Both of my grandfathers were big outdoors people. My grandmothers were very focused on getting out of the house, getting out into nature, teaching, learning about the world around you and how you could impact it and how it impacted you. So I just had great mentors in my family and always loved birds. When I have to go look for it, but I have a letter that I wrote to my grandparents when I was in 8th grade saying that when I grew up, I wanted to be an ornithologist. I know, which is so weird as an 8th grader. How old are you? Probably 12 or 13, something like that.
Right.
It's crazy.
I find it fascinating, the story of wild birds, because I've heard a little bit of the story. I think they're the founder of the company, and I'll let you tell it, but the founder of the company started with essentially like a single feed store. Just tell that story.
Yeah, so Jim Carpenter, who's our founder, CEO, president, still incredibly active in the business, a wonderful guy. I've worked with him and for him for 29 years now. He went to school to get into medical school. So he has a master's in plant physiology, got rejected from medical school, and did what most people with plant physiology, there's not a lot of listings in the want ads for a plant physiologist.
And what year was this, by the way, around
1980, probably 1980 at that point.
Got it.
Family was in business, had a very small little inheritance. His family had, I think, 5 and dime stores around Indiana, grandparents. He started working in a garden center and then managed 2 garden centers and loved the people, loved the engagement with the customers, and really fell into loving the bird feeding part. Most nurseries and garden centers have a small little bird feeding section. That was his love. Didn't like some of the other stuff. And so he decided he was going to combine bird feeding and plantings to enhance backyard habitats. So we kind of went down the path of having a mail order catalog. No one even talks about the mail order anymore. It's kind of funny. But at the time, or had enough money to pay rent on this little tiny 800 square foot space and set up a little shop. And that's what he did in 1981.
The landlord kind of scratch his head and look at him and say...
The favorite story in our system, in the Wild Birds Unlimited system, that is true, is Jim said that the mail delivery, at the time gentleman, and the UPS delivery guy had a bet of whether they would last, whether he would last for a year. And there you go. That's the end of the story now, is that it's 2018 and we have 330 franchises. So
I find two themes in what you just said very fascinating. Number one is I can see why they're scratching their head. You know, like how do you have 330 very successful locations and bird feeding and et cetera? But one of the things that struck me is the passion for what you guys do, but also the way that you treat your folks, and the like, for example, you have in your track record, you don't have litigation records in FDDs and all this different stuff, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're very it's about setting it's about setting the proper expectations. And when you're working with a new candidate who's looking at a Wild Birds Unlimited store, it's my responsibility to run the team, and I have an amazing team, but to be really transparent and to provide candidates with all of the information. It also means that we're not rock stars, and we're not awarding a huge number of franchises every year, right? So I'm never going to get any records on that. But what I have is consistency and sustainability, and franchisees who are incredibly happy. I mean, just go look at our Franchise Business Review franchisee satisfaction numbers. We have a very happy franchise system. But part of it is that we are very clear in the beginning about it's going to be hard. And it's going to be tough, and it's a brand new business, and it's going to take a couple of years of really building up that business. We're birdseed, it's a consumable. Yeah. So you've got to get a lot of customers who are then shopping with you over time, because the birds eat the birdseed, the customer comes back in. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's a building business, and we make that clear in our item 19. That's why we have 9 schedules giving top line information, bottom line information, how long it takes to get to break even, and then how much longer before you can make what the averages are. We're really, really clear about that.
Yeah. So going back to the story of the founding and all that, and then to your background, how did the universe conspire to bring together a med student that didn't go into the medical world, that had a fascination and a degree in plants, and then you with your degree, your focus, and your passion? How did the universe bring you guys together?
It's a serendipity, a little bit of luck, a little taking advantage of the right opportunity. So I have 2 major hobbies. Anybody that knows me, is birds, nature is one hobby, and gardening and plants is another. And so when I moved to Indianapolis in late 88, I went to, in 1989, a flower and patio show. And one of the things that our stores do very often to get out and acquire new customers is they'll exhibit, put a little booth at a flower and patio show, an Earth Day show, a festival, nature festival. And Jim and Nancy Carpenter, owners of the first store, the one in Indianapolis, had a booth there. And I just was walking around the flower and patio show in March of 1989, and I ran into their booth and was like, oh my gosh, a whole booth about bird feeding. This is so cool. And I started chatting with Nancy Carpenter, who was very involved in the business, Jim's wife and partner. And I asked for a job in the retail store on the weekends. I had a job at the university. I just graduated, and I hated that job, but I didn't really think you could have a career I wasn't even thinking about business. So I just asked if I could do that. We talked a little bit later. I came up. It was really busy in the store that day. I was thinking about getting a part-time retail job, is what I'm talking about, on Saturdays. They were unloading a truck. I went into the store and actually sold somebody a whole bird feeding setup and brought them up to the cash register and said, I don't know how to do this. I really don't work here. And Jim and Nancy said, come back the next week and let's talk seriously. I've got a different idea for you. And there you go. A week later, I came into the office and they said, we want to hire you to work in our franchise. And I said, I don't know anything about business. And they said, you're a scientist. Yes, you do. And there you go. I started 2 weeks later.
That's excellent. You've been there ever since.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that story. And outrageous growth.
It's been wonderful. Yeah. When I started in April 17th of 1989, we had 29 franchises, and now we're at 330 open and operational stores across the U.S. and Canada.
Talk a little bit about what you're focused on today and what 2018 through 2020 looks like for you guys.
One of the big focuses that we have is the launch of our omni-channel model. So brick and mortar is and always will be, the meat and potatoes of Wild Birds Unlimited, but our customers are changing. Our customers want different things, and we have to be there ahead of them to make sure that we have what they want when they want it. So we have just launched My WVU store. We did alpha testing, beta testing in 2017, and we're doing a very slow and specific launch across our whole system over the probably next 2 years. So getting more of our franchisees to have this opportunity for customers to say, it's Thursday night. My feeders are empty. I'm going to be home this weekend, and I don't have time to run to the store. Boom. You just get on your phone, get on your tablet, and
Talk
Order
about
your bird food, have it
how
delivered.
Amazon hasn't crushed your business, because it hasn't. You guys have done very well.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Obviously, knowing the importance of embracing what you just said and knowing that you need to be there and getting ahead of making things more convenient for your customers, which you're doing at the right pace.
Yep.
But talk about how you've kind of protected yourself against Amazon.
Some of it, fortunate that bird food is heavy, and so shipping it has, that's been a barrier, and that's why people still want to go to a store and pick it up, because shipping's expensive. And it has been. Models of free shipping are really not all that recent. So, but that's a barrier that is lowering, because now there is more free shipping. But it's the one-on-one interaction, the sharing of the joy of the customer's experience that Amazon can't do. So you can buy something on Amazon, but no one is going to connect with you and laugh with you and look you straight in the eye and say, "Oh my gosh, Ryan, I'm so excited your bluebirds hatched."
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really big deal. And that's, what we do is we create joy. That's what we do. We do it by selling bird food. That's how we do it, and we engage people with nature. So you can't get that online. You've got to. That's a one-on-one connection, and people want a sense of community. And so that love of birds and love of bird feeding and love of nature is all a community that our stores can create locally. And we're here in Dallas, right? Bird feeding at the customers that are serviced by our Lover's Lane store, our Mockingbird and Abrams store, it's a different set of birds sometimes, subtle differences, but different than in McKinney or in Keller or in Flower Mound or Burleson or Arlington. They're all a little different. They're microclimates. So you may not get hummingbirds in town in one market, but you get it out in the suburbs. Our store owners are attentive to that and can help people make the right choices of what products to buy, how to display them.
I think oftentimes, then that's a very important thread when you look at technology. You have to think about it as, how do we take our experience and the local knowledge and all that, and how do we have technology help enhance that rather than just using tech for tech's sake.
Right.
And that's what it's doing. And you talked about some other things that you're working on. I don't know if you can or want to get into them with being able to do on-site stuff, etc. But there's a lot of exciting things that it sounds like you have in the hopper.
Yeah, there are. We've got a lot of things in planning, trying to help even customize the bird feeding experience more locally for each individual customer's specific yard. So potential of going in and birdscaping is a term that people have used. We're doing our own little twist. I'm not going to reveal all of it, but to make it go even deeper, really to take that experience and customize it even more so, rather than just saying, oh, you live in this neighborhood, but you live in this yard with these trees. Here are the right ways to establish feeding stations and bird baths and houses that are going to really optimize the habitat for you specifically and for your own viewing and enjoyment pleasure. Where is the best place to put the feeder so that you can see it and optimize your enjoyment of the nature?
How do you think about shifting gears to kind of more some operational stuff? How do you think about hiring, and what do you look for in folks that you bring on to your organization?
From a franchise selection standpoint?
Either or.
Oh, yeah, even for our customers. Well, one thing is, we tell our franchisees one of the most important things when they're building their team is hire the smile. You can teach the operations. You can teach the the features and benefits of a product. So, if you have a franchisee who's obviously, you can't tell them who to hire or who not to hire, but the basic overall theory, somebody who knows everything about birds, someone who's an ornithologist, but they're an introvert, versus somebody who, they like birds and nature, they don't know that much about them, but they are infectiously enthusiastic. Go with that infectious enthusiasm. That's the difference. And then that same thing applies from a franchise, e-satisfaction. Go with people who who want to make a difference. Go with people who are committed to their people, they're committed to the hobby, they're committed to building a great business, and they've got an easily observed infectious enthusiasm for what they need to do and what they want to do.
Hire the smile, and the same thing on the Z side.
Yeah.
Award the license to those type folks.
Now, over the years, you're in development. You talk to lots of different people, and I've actually had potential candidates say, I'm not really a people person. I'm like, well, then retail may not be the best fit for you because that's what you do. Or at a party,
it's like saying I'm gonna run races, but I'm not really a runner.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's great. Knock yourself out, but don't do it with my brand. For the simple reason that you want them to be successful. So that's a part of it. And we talked earlier about, honesty and integrity and transparency. You've got to be prepared to tell people not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear.
Yeah. In your franchise journey, talk about some of the people maybe outside of your organization that have helped you or made an impact on your life. And I know there's too many to name, but just think back and pluck out some experiences.
Some of the ones that pop in that have been around in my life the longest, Therese, Thilgen, and Gardner. I've met them. We've decided that we're not going to say how many years ago because it ages us, but they have been huge mentors of mine and friends, and have, led me down a lot of really productive paths. Brian Schnell, our attorney, and Carrie Olson, who works with me directly, have been amazing to help me navigate through an understanding of all of that, of the legal stuff. I mean, from a development standpoint, Pete Lindsay and Jeff Sturgis are amazing. Michelle Rowan and Eric Stites from Franchise Business Review about being able to track and focus on the satisfaction and how to optimize that and how to continue to improve that, and just pushing us. They've become friends, but they're people who push me to be the best version. And yeah, the names are too long to list, so I feel like I've left out a million people, but yeah, I'm very lucky.
Switching gears to kind of more of personal side, you obviously stay busy. You do a lot of traveling, a lot of conferences as well. How do you maintain a really good work-life balance?
It depends on the week, I would say. When you love your life and you have the most amazing personal life and phenomenal work life, and I do tend to have I mix it up. So I'm very good friends with a lot of people that I work with, and so work oftentimes doesn't feel like work, and home doesn't feel exclusively home. It's all just kind of blended together, but I'm thoughtful about it, and I take time off when I need to take time off, and I work when I need to work, and I'll do a lot of sprints, and then I'll take a lot of breaks, and then I'll do a lot of sprints, and then I'll take a lot of breaks. So it never seems overwhelming to me, and I'm very lucky. I went a couple of years ago. I went through and became a certified yoga teacher. Not because I wanted to teach yoga, but because I wanted to learn more about it, and it really just helped me be more thoughtful about the decisions that I make. And so I don't really feel like I've got an unbalanced life at all. I feel like I've got a very balanced existence.
Yeah, I actually set a goal for this year. I think I told you this on the phone a couple of weeks ago. I set a goal for myself is just to practice the art of breathing and just slowing down a little bit. And I bet that yoga experience taught you a lot about that, etc.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think what the most common complaint that I hear is that people say, I don't have time to do it. And it's like, you don't have time not to do it, and you don't have to do it for a long time. 5 or 10 minutes of just stopping and just focusing on one thing can make a huge difference to the rest of your day. It can open up a lot of doors and windows, and it works for me.
Yeah, I love it. the IFA. Talk about the importance of getting involved. Some folks are less involved, some folks are more. But talk about some of the things that the IFA has given you beyond friendships and camaraderie, as well as that. But talk about the importance of getting involved.
Well, getting involved in it is a huge opportunity if you like to learn. I mean, it's a wonderful envoy into some of the greatest brilliant brains out there. And I would tell you that franchising is, I have to hear what other people, I have to listen to what other people say because I don't know anything other than franchising. I came straight out of graduate school and jumped into Wild Birds Unlimited. So I've always been in franchising professionally. But the people there are the most sharing. I've never seen or heard of, and I know we're not an industry, but a community where competitors will share information and will have friendly yet very competitive relationships. And when you're getting out there and you're listening and then contributing, it has made a huge difference from an education level, learning best practices, different ways of getting the same thing done. I've learned that not one size fits all, and figuring out different ways to accomplish the single goal that you have, but understanding the fact that you may have to take different paths with different people. That's been something that I've gotten from the IFA.
That's one of the things that I think attracted me, because I'm on the vendor side of the business, and I have been. And one of the things that I think attracted me is you don't see that elsewise. Yes, other folks have, other quote-unquote communities or industries or whatever you want to call it, have their conferences, but the franchise world is it's dedicated to knowledge and sharing, and if you look at an actual franchise business, it's a franchise is a system of systems and it's operational focus, but yet the mission comes through, but it's all about training and making it easier for folks to start. And that happens at a macro level whenever you're bouncing around a conference and you run into your competitors. And so it's just learning, and just the curiosity and the sharing is definitely what drew me to the community. It
is an amazing community, and what I've learned is, over the, I showed up for a long time, and I listened, and I went to all the sessions, and I tried to engage. I did engage with a lot of people, but I didn't give as much. People, I wasn't on a lot of panels until probably the last 8-9 years. What I've learned now is that when you get to that point where you get to give back, that's when the real getting starts. I mean, when I talk to people, they've asked me to mentor them and I've helped them, I learn so much from helping somebody who's really, they're thinking that I'm the one giving everything, and in fact, the opposite is true, because you have a different, more fresh point of view, and you start giving somebody advice on what worked for you early on, and you go, man, I kind of stopped doing that. I should go back to the basics and foundations. So it's really a fresh set of eyes. And
one of my core philosophies in life is that everyone is a student, everyone is a teacher. And isn't it funny how whenever you're teaching something, you kind of remind yourself and you're learning as well.
Right. Right.
That's just a core life belief of mine. FranPAC. FranPAC is basically a bipartisan political action committee dedicated to franchise-friendly legislation. Mm-hmm. And over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of good work done. Can you share any advice or recommendations in terms of getting involved with that or not, as well as looking at it and seeing that there is bipartisan work going on?
I think the IFA has made a very strong, conscious effort to make it much more bipartisan. We are there are a lot of issues that are political, but there are also major issues that we, as in the world of franchising, are dealing with that are nonpartisan. They're not even bipartisan; they're just nonpartisan. The whole NLRB ruling and this push to the Save Local Business Act is a very important one to get involved in, that we've gotten involved in very strongly, and met with representatives of our own Democratic senator from the state of Indiana, try to make an impact on his decision making. And I continue to work very closely with the IFA staff to help get some of this legislation pass through into law so that we have more clear guidelines. But I contribute to FranPAC. I'm not a huge maximum contributor personally, but I think that it's important for everyone to get involved. This is our community. This is our livelihood, and we've got to get involved. We've got to make a difference, and the only way you make a difference is to give money, to write letters, and to actually take physical action and communicate with your representatives, with your senators, to make a difference, because we have to protect those people that we have brought into franchise, and those are our franchisees. They're the most important people to protect.
Yeah, if you look at, I don't know the exact statistic, but if you look at just macro statistics, I think franchising represents 3% or around 3% of gross domestic product. That's slowly grown over the years, because I was looking back a decade ago, 2 decades ago, that's slowly grown, and I think it will continue to grow. And I just think it's super important for folks to get involved, and you don't have to be a max donor, but every little contribution helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
So, a couple of rapid fire questions. Do you have a favorite book?
You're going to laugh. Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Got to read it. I haven't read it. Any gold nuggets from it? Or
do your own thing and do it well, and it doesn't matter if you're outside of the herd or the pack or the flock. Sorry, I added the flock in. But be your own person and stick to your own goals and focus on what's important to you.
How important is goal setting to you?
I would say it's very important. I probably don't do it as traditionally as others. I don't necessarily write it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course we do at work, but I have internal goals that are just more sort of always there as an umbrella over everything that I do.
Yeah, I love it. Paul, tell us where folks would go to find more information about franchising with Wild Birds Unlimited.
It's very easy. www.wbufranchise.com, or just give me a call at 888-730-7108.
Mr. Picket, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure having you.
Pleasure was mine. Thanks, Ryan.
Cheers.
All my best.